Welcome to the Do Good X podcast, a sanctuary from the entrepreneurial grind. Hosts Kimberly Danielle and Stephen Lewis, advocates for impactful entrepreneurship, guide you on the path where purpose meets business. Join us to slow down, reconnect, and explore the challenges of under-resourced entrepreneurs, uncovering the unique journey of building businesses that make a difference. Now, your hosts.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Do Good X podcast. My name is Kimberly Danielle, and I am a community builder, a coach, and a communication strategist who comes from generations of faith-driven leaders and entrepreneurs who believe that our purpose should drive us all to contribute to the common good. And now I'm going to pass the mic over to Stephen, my co-host.
Hey, Kimberly. Hey, it's good to see you. As you know, I am a catalyst for positive change in communities and businesses. And for over 2 decades, I have inspired leaders and entrepreneurs to live and work on purpose with intention, faith, and a commitment to their well-being. We are back with another special revisit from last season. And this episode addresses the moment when an idea that started as a side hustle starts to demand more of your time, your energy, and maybe even your faith. So we chat about how and when you know it's time to go all in on your business.
Yes, because we have to be conscious of when we make that choice to take that leap. But it's a leap that many of us should take. So in this episode, we unpack what it really means to jump into building your business full time. We talk about shifting your mindset, having a strong legal foundation, getting your finances in order, and building systems that can support you in this process. And importantly, we discuss having a viable business idea before you consider any leap. A viable business idea, not just one that you think is good, but a viable business idea for ideal paying customers.
Yeah, so if you've been sitting on the edge, feeling that pull to take a leap, but you're unsure if it's the time, this conversation will help you to pause, to plan, and to move forward with just a bit of more clarity. So enjoy.
Now, I suspect that there are many of you out there who already have a business up and running or in the process of that. But there's some of you who may be working a 9 to 5, 8 to 4, or whatever that looks like for you. And you have a side hustle and you've been doing this thing and you're thinking, okay, when do I just put all my eggs in the basket and I go all in? So that's something that we want to talk about today, when to consider transitioning to your business full time. Stephen, what would you say is an indicator of when to get us started? What would you say is an indicator of when someone should just go all in? Take that chance.
When they are ready. So, part of thinking about readiness is thinking about your finances, thinking about your mindset, the time that you have available to actually put into your business, and, really your community of support. And I think, that's really important in terms of, are you ready to actually make the leap? Because sometimes to really go after the dream, or to really live into what you're calling to bring this vision to life, will require you to stretch yourself. And part of that is being ready to actually stretch yourself in the ways that demonstrate your readiness. Again, looking at your finances, looking at the time that you have available to actually put into the business, and really thinking about what's going to be your tribe of people, your cheerleaders and supporters that kind of help you along the way when things may get tough. You may feel like quitting, or you may just need a little bit of a pep talk in order to keep on the road to building your business and making your dreams come true. What would you say, Kimberly?
Yeah, just to add to what you were saying, and then I'll speak about another point, is that you got to make sure your mind is right. And you can be the biggest thing that gets in your own way. And it's important to make sure that you are taking care of not just your body, but also your mind and your spirit, because you will see, and some of it you will hear in some of our episodes, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. One of our guests said it's like chewing on glass.
That's right. That's right.
So that is very important to understand some of the realities and not just romanticizing what entrepreneurship can be. And it can be a beautiful thing, but just be clear about what you're getting yourself into.
Say just a little bit more about mindset. I mean, we've talked about it in other places, but what does it mean to get your mind right? What do people need to be looking towards as they think about, how do I get my mind right? How do I get my head around this thing of taking the leap of faith?
I would say, one, how are you talking to yourself? That may sound so basic, but there are so many times where we can, and I can, in my inner voice, it comes out as what a friend of ours says, the itty bitty shitty committee. And so it can really be, it can really block us from believing in ourselves, having the confidence that we need, or moving forward with an idea that is really not just a great idea, but a proven idea. Our minds can get in the way of that. So pay attention to how you're talking to yourself. Pay attention to the ways that you speak to yourself when you hit challenges. What are you saying? How are you moving through that? Or are you allowing yourself to get stuck? And know that you also you need some resources or tools to tap into, because sometimes we do wind up in the valley. But what are you going to do when you get in the valley? What tools do you have at your fingertips? Maybe you need to go for a walk in nature. Maybe you need to meditate. Maybe you need to journal. Maybe you need to sit still in silence. Maybe you need to connect with the community that Stephen mentioned. Or maybe you need to spend time with family and friends and just cut off work or business to fully be present in the moment.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is acknowledging the fact that you are enough, that you have and you're equipped to do what it is that you're called to do and feel called and compelled to build in terms of your business. I think the other thing too is acknowledging this idea that sometimes you have to mindset requires you to just be able to sit still. In the words of Courtney Vance, to let the mud settle so you can see clearly enough about how do I actually solve this problem. And I think another mindset is that, sometimes you have to give yourself positive affirmations about what you can do, and to focus on what it is that you are able to do. And that if you don't have the answer, that you know that the answer exists within your community and network of friends and families who support you in whatever endeavor that you're pursuing. And then finally, I would say that, when I think about mindset, it really is this idea of, I have what I need to make this thing happen. And so I think if you can think about those kinds of positive affirmations to recognize what you'll do in the midst of setbacks, that you'll keep standing or get back up and keep moving forward, that'll help you along the way as you think about getting your mind right.
Yeah. And, part of what we want to do in this podcast is make sure that we're tending to our bodies and our minds and our spirits, because we can get into the entrepreneurial kind of hustle, is what we typically hear. And a lot of times we forget to care for our bodies, our minds, our spirits. So finances are also important, like Stephen said, and those other things. And it begins really with your mind and your mindset. So another indicator that is very important, once you know that your mind is right and your finances are there and you got these pieces in place to support you on the journey, making sure that you have a clear, viable idea. Sometimes we think that we have the best idea. It might be a good idea, but is it a good idea to other people beyond
Yeah.
yourself, beyond your friends, beyond your family, and that it addresses a problem or a need for communities that you have actually tested, you have feedback on, and I'm not just talking about from 5 people.
Mm.
and you've launched and you've done something to prove that it works and it's needed and necessary.
Yeah. Another thing is really thinking about your budget. Do you have a budget that looks at the next 6 months to 12 months versus the next 3 years, and really think about financial projections? Do you have enough resources?
So another indicator that you can you can go all in is that you have a clear vision for your
Yeah.
business. Now, that's not to say that the vision isn't going to shift, on the journey, but right now in this moment, you have a clear vision and you have systems in place to support your business processes. And in this day and age, you should have some technology to support you in that process, specifically things that can be automated, things that you're doing on a daily basis that you can automate and have those systems in place to support you, that you have all of that in place, because that's going to make the transition so much easier than it would if you didn't have that. And then I would also say to be clear about your team
Yeah.
needs. So a lot of underrepresented founders, we are starting businesses as a solo founder or by ourselves, but depending on the type of business that you are going all in on, you may need to have team members. Now, that might not be another full-time person. That might not be even a part-time person, but you may need some folks who are contractors or freelancers. And so making sure that you're clear about those needs. And back to Stephen's note about finances, you want to make sure that you've budgeted the expenses and the costs for having those people to be resources to help you move your business forward.
Yeah. And I think the other piece of that is really thinking about your legal structure. At the end of the day, you probably need to consult with an attorney about the best legal structure for your business. And that structure is not just about whether or not I am an LLC versus a C Corp, B Corp, or any of those types of structures piece, but it's also think about the legal structures of contracts and agreements and terms. And, if you were to have, disagreements with a consultant that you hired, where might that be mediated in terms of your business and that type of thing? So thinking about the kind of legal structure of your business, whether you're going to be an LLC or some other type of form, will be really important to think about what do you need for in this next, 6 to 12 months or the next 24 months versus the type of legal structure that you might need in the next 3 to 5 years, particularly if you're trying to position yourself to raise capital and to find investors. They will want a whole different type of legal structure. So don't become wedded to any one particular structure. Think about what you need at the moment that is going to protect you in terms of liability if your business has some unfortunate situation where someone were to sue you, or to think about the kind of legal structure that you need to put in place in terms of protecting an IP or some type of intellectual property, or thinking about what you might need in terms of trademarking your particular brand or business or process or product that you're actually creating. Like, legal structure, I think, covers all those things. And so being able to talk to someone that can help you about what it is that you need now versus what you might need, 18 to 24 months later will be really important. You don't need to be overly worried about, what's going to happen if I don't have this and that and the other. It's really thinking about what is that you need at this moment to get yourself started. And I think if you can think about that and prioritize the structure and what you might need in terms of simple agreements, then I think that will help you then think about what it is that you may need long-term down the road as your business grows and changes, or other types of things that require you to consider that you haven't considered as it relates to your business.
If you fall into the community of folks who is questioning if now is the time, if you have these things in place that we've discussed on this episode, you might be ready.
You might be
What do you
ready.
think,
You might be ready. And I think the other thing, to look at it this way, sometimes no time is a good time. Sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith.
Right. So if now is the time where you want to take a leap of faith, we also have a place that you can start, and you can connect with entrepreneurs and change makers by going to dogoodx.org and joining our LinkedIn community. We provide resources, tools, and connections for your journey, and we have some support that could be helpful as you dive into the world of entrepreneurship. But at any rate, make sure you have a community around you. Make sure you're caring for yourself, and make sure that you have the support structures and systems in place to set you up for success before you even dip your toe in. But as Stephen said, no time is a good time, but there's no time that's better than now. Until next time, be well and do good.
Thank you for listening to the Do Good X podcast. To continue the conversation or access our resources, visit www.dogoodx.org. Join us again for conversations that will nourish your soul, ignite your dreams, and empower you to build an impactful business, one intentional step at a time. Until then, keep striving, thriving, and doing good.